Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 14, Episode 12. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Monday, Steelers Nation. We just had an episode on Sunday giving our immediate thoughts on the Steelers preseason victory, 27-15 over the Buffalo Bills on Saturday night at Acrisure Stadium. But Dave, a day past all that, go through the All-22, some signings to talk about, always something going on. How you doing?
You're not going to hit me with any Queen this morning.
I'll save it this time.
You're spoiling me. I found something else to be mad at since yesterday. Went through last night watching the All-22 on the offensive line and specifically because I didn't have a good feel initially after the run-throughs of watching the offensive line specifically and seeing how much Spencer Anderson actually moved around. Man, couldn't they get that kid a left tackle snap so he could hit for the cycle?
I like it. I didn't realize though he played four positions. I thought it was just the two. So that was a good nugget by you.
Yeah, you get well. Here's the thing, because obviously, as preseason games, get into the second half and all like that, you got a lot of moving parts in there. And he didn't even, I don't think, took his first snap until the third quarter, I think. And he came in at right tackle there. And I guess it just kind of got lost in the shuffle, at least in my mind, when going back through the TV tape initially there, of how much I knew he had moved over to, I think it was left guard at that point. So I thought, for sure in my head he had played two snaps, but went through the All-22 last night, series by series and all like that. And yeah, he ended up playing 4 of the 5 positions on the offensive line, with left tackle being the only position that they didn't. And they only had, and then I posted about this last night, they only had 3 players in total on that offensive line that played multiple spots in that game. Spencer Anderson obviously played 4 spots. Ryan McCollum played both guard spots, no center. And then good old LaRaven Clark played both tackle spots there. So I guess that too kind of explains, I guess, a little bit of what they did with and with them wanting to get Anderson some snaps at right tackle there. I guess that explains a little bit of why, because even Jones came in and out of that game, I think two times in there. So I guess they just wanted to get a look at a couple of these rotations here. And I think the other kind of main takeaway at this point, through 2 preseason games, well, I'm just jumping right in it this morning.
You are.
So sorry about that, but I don't think we've seen Broderick Jones play any right tackle, have we?
No, he's not taking a single snap at right tackle in training camp or, of course, inside a stadium. So he is a left tackle, and as of right now, a left tackle only.
What does it mean? What does it mean? You get into, look, I mean, they're trying to get him as many snaps as possible. I think that's evident at this point with Broderick Jones in the preseason, and obviously moving into this last preseason game, I would imagine he's going to play quite a bit. Are we going to see him any at right tackle? And I don't know about you, but LaRaven Clark's look like LaRaven Clark so far. There's no way LaRaven Clark makes this 53, right? And if he doesn't, what's the move if Moore is your starting left tackle, and obviously Chukwuma Okorafor your right tackle? What's the move if you have to go to the bench there?
Well, I've been saying that for a long time. back in June, probably talking about, if we assume for a second Moore is the left tackle, what is the backup right tackle plan? How much work would Jones get at right tackle this summer? I didn't expect much. I thought he might get something. He's gotten nothing. So here's my thought on that. And I mentioned this before as well. If that happened in game, Dan Moore is going to shift to right tackle and Jones is going to come in at left tackle. And they've actually, I don't know if they've done so intentionally, but in training camp during some of the team periods in the middle of that particular 11v11 session, they would take a core four out and move more from left to right tackle, almost simulating moving over on the fly in the middle of a team period. So I'm pretty confident that's going to be their backup plan at right tackle.
Okay, and I don't think we've seen any Dan Moore in the preseason at right tackle, have we?
No, he's only been left tackle.
Preseason, right. Because he's coming out with the starters. He's only played 17 snaps.
Yeah.
In total there. Yeah, I guess you're right then on that, because unless we see, any.
And they could do Anderson. If Anderson was active, I mean, that's an option, but I think Moore is more likely to shift over.
All right, so that's where we stand on the offensive line, especially on the rotations right now coming out of the second preseason game. To use 8 combinations once again in this second preseason game. A little bit different how they manipulated that. And, I suppose with Nate Herbig being down, it caused a little bit of different things there. And Kendrick Green, he only played center in this game. So there's a quick recap of the offensive line there.
All right, let me take you out of the deep end and put you in the shallow end of the pool for just a moment, because I want to get to a reported signing the Steelers have made. It's not been confirmed by the team yet, although by the time everybody listens to this, that may have changed. But according to Aaron Wilson, he reports the Pittsburgh Steelers have signed wide receiver Aaron Cruikshank, and that's going to be to the 90-man roster. Don't know the corresponding move there. Cruikshank, undrafted free agent out of Rutgers, undersized receiver, return guy. Went to Wisconsin initially and then transferred to Rutgers. He was with Chicago until August 11th when they waived him. So he's kind of got a Jordan Byrd type of background. He's small, didn't run a grade 40, runner, returner, receiver. Not entirely sure what this means. Does that mean something for Jordan Byrd or Hakeem Butler, who did not play against the Bills, did not dress, I don't believe? Does that mean that Butler's going to be on the way out for the preseason finale? We don't know, but it does appear this team is going to add a wide receiver late in this process. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see the back end of the reciprocal move on this. Did they have any? Trying to remember, did they have any pre-draft interest in him out of Rutgers?
Not to my knowledge. I can check our Pro Day tracker and see who was there.
The name sounds familiar for some reason. That's why I asked.
There's a Dane Cruikshank. I don't know if there's a relation. He's in the NFL, I believe, with Tennessee. I assume they're related. I don't know how many Cruikshanks there are, but that's probably where your mind's at.
Okay.
Bronson Williams was at the Rutgers Pro Day. He's a scouting intern, so somebody was there, but it wasn't anybody necessarily, not a coordinator, not a position coach.
All right.
That's the move there, so we'll follow up with the corresponding move that'll probably be announced later on Monday, and I think it's either going to be Jordan Byrd or Hakeem Butler, but we'll see. Maybe somebody got hurt that we don't know about. Obviously, camp is over. We can't report who's practicing, who's not, those types of things. So now we're kind of in the dark until the team says something. All right, Dave, we've had a day to go through the All-22. And you kind of gave your thoughts there on the offensive line. Let's stay with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. In reviewing the tape, what are some of your big takeaways from this game?
Yeah, I thought Kenny Pickett was really, really good in this. Some of the pocket movement in there. Obviously, he was only in for the 2 series, and one of those was just the 1-play drive, the touchdown to Freiermuth, and once again, every angle that you look at that, the timing and everything of that, you can tell those two have definitely worked on that. He lets that ball go in flight, and that line, the linebacker can't see it if his head's turned around, right? And he lets that thing loose, and just a ball placement on that altogether was really, really good overall. So I thought Pickett's been really, really good these first 2 games. And I guess, the only question now is, and we'll see if Mike Tomlin kind of adds any color to that, going into this last preseason game, is how much do you play a guy like that along with the first team offense, who once again I think have 17 total snaps going into the preseason game. Mike Tomlin said the other night that they're going to play all healthy players and the starters once again, but the only question is, I guess, is how much at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard Tomlin say that about week one, and not all the healthy players played. The veterans were held out. The starters, of course, most of them, especially offensively, did play. So if you were in Mike Tomlin's shoes, based on what you've seen so far, how much are you playing the first team offense in this game?
Yeah, I'd like to see him. Now, obviously, you can't control triple explosive runs for a touchdown like that, but I think another 2 series would be perfect when it comes to that. I don't see, I don't see any reason to go much longer than that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think less is more in this game. I was going to suggest just 1 series just to get them out there, so they're not, they haven't not been on the field for almost 3 weeks by the time week 1 rolls around. But there's not much more I need to see from this offense. I understand, and Tomlin will probably make this point, and I made it yesterday. This offense, first teamers only have 17 snaps in the preseason. They've been really efficient, and in some ways, it's almost a bad thing because there have not been as many snaps to evaluate. But I think they've proven what they needed to prove and show this summer. And now the goal is to get this group healthy for a tough week 1 matchup against the 49ers. So I'm okay with playing these guys for a series, get them out, and call it a day, regardless of what happens. Even if they go 3 and out, I think that's good enough for the finale.
Yeah, I mean, I got to admit that I would have imagined the first team offense would have got a little bit more than 17 snaps through two games.
Sure, but who would have guessed this team with all the big plays and 33-yard touchdown, 62-yard touchdown, and the long punt return that sets up a 1-play score from Pickett to Freiermuth. So it's a good situation to be in.
Right. Yeah, three touchdowns. Well, you'll take that, right?
Yeah, amen to that. Yeah, I thought Pickett was sharp. I think Dan Moyes looked really good at left tackle. I think he's had a good camp, and that's kind of my main takeaway offensively. Thought Broderick Jones struggled some more. I just thought some of his sets were a little bit messier, trying to refit his hands. Just didn't look as clean and as consistent as I thought even he looked in the opener against Tampa Bay. So obviously Buffalo probably playing more of their starting caliber guys than the Bucs did. There's one reason for that. But at this point, I really don't see Broderick Jones becoming this team's week 1 left tackle. I'm pretty confident, like 98% confident it's going to be Dan Moore Jr. to face. We assume there's a holdout, but we assume Nick Bosa and company in week 1.
I would concur with that.
Anything else there? Well, what was your evaluation of Jones? Is that probably a fair? I just felt a little bit messier, not quite as clean. And I did rewatch that play back, and he did get beat for, there's an issue with Kendrick Green on that play, but on the 1 sack that Rudolph took, it was a cross chop, and Jones missed his punch, and he got beat there.
Yeah, I think you're just seeing his adjustment to the game here overall, and the usage of the hands is the thing. I think that he needs to concentrate on moving forward here. And I think just like, Joey Porter Jr. on the defensive side of the ball, they're just trying to get him as many snaps and exposure to this thing as possible. He obviously comes out of Georgia, not a lot of starting experience overall. So they're just trying to work through some of the more technical. I mean, he's athletic as all get out. I mean, there's never a question about that. I think it's probably more of him adjusting to what Pat Meyer, the technical aspects that he teaches here.
Yeah, I think that is one of the big things. I think Dan Moore, to his credit, has gotten really comfortable in that. He's not as aggressive with his sets as the way that Chukwuma Okorafor is, and you don't always have to be. There's a thing called a chase down set where if the D end is kind of aligned wider, you can close that gap with a really, really aggressive set. And you've seen Okorafor take it a lot more than Dan Moore, but where I think Moore has really gotten comfortable and excelled is with independent hand usage. And Meyer's approach is generally using more independent hands than a 2-hand punch. He prefers to work each hand independently. So if you miss with 1 hand, you got the other to recover. You got 2-hand punch and you missed, then you're kind of out of luck there. And I think Moore, after struggling last year, has really gotten that down pat. I have not seen that as much from Broderick Jones, who I still think has to work on hand placement and punch. Does a nice job to refit his hands whenever he does miss, and he's a bit, too far outside initially. And as you said, the athleticism is there, but I just think Moore's been really steady. Jones has not been bad, but I think there's some technical things to work with, and I don't think he's going to be the week one guy, which again goes back to your question of, okay, who's the backup right tackle? And we'll see how the roster looks, but I think it's going to be Dan Moore, both the starting left tackle and the backup right tackle at the same time.
Okay. And it'll be interesting. Obviously got a full season to go to see what happens. Big season for Chukwuma Okorafor to make sure he holds on to his spot, right? He's obviously going to be here through 2023, but then the question becomes what happens, after this season, especially I think come March when he has the roster bonus due. But look, I mean, Dan Moore, if he starts, there's room for the hook here, right? You don't draft a tackle in the first round, and in other words, he's going to be right there behind him. So Dan Moore really doesn't have much room for error there for them to think about making the switch there and getting Jones in there.
I know it's way down the road, and my focus is not really there right now, but I wonder how Pittsburgh will treat the first couple of weeks, because you're facing Nick Bosa in a really good 49ers pass rush, and then you're facing Myles Garrett week 2. How does this team walk the line between, if Moore struggles a bit, okay, he's struggling a bit, versus he's facing some of the top pass rushers in football. Right. I wonder how Pittsburgh will balance that, because I assume Moore's not going to look incredible in these first 2 weeks. He's going to have his rough moments and get beat a time or two. That's going to lead for calls for Jones, I'm sure, but Pittsburgh may retort and say, well, he's facing, obviously upper caliber players. So how Pittsburgh handles that will be really interesting.
Well, you'll definitely get a good measuring stick of where Moore is in his progression, if indeed he starts and goes through that, first 3-game gauntlet there, if you will. Maybe Bosa will just continue to.
Well, no, it's getting pretty late, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, you have to think that Bosa's going to sign at some point. Now, will they have a pitch count on him on week 1? What if he's, here we are. I mean, we're 20 days away from this game, and he's not even in camp, is he?
No, it's a true old school holdout that's going to incur the $50,000 fine per day that can't be rescinded, but he obviously feels that strongly about it.
Now, I don't envision Bosa not keeping himself in shape to some degree, but you to some degree you like these guys to get some work before the start of the season there. So that's something that's a whole different category, but something worth paying attention to. Kendrick Green.
This is like the old phrase that you say, besides that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Besides the bad snap, I mean, I didn't think the actual tape was terrible. There were a couple of decent reps, and I believe, not that we put much stock into it, but PFF didn't grade out Green horribly, and I'm sure they dinged him pretty good for that early snap there. He did get pulled back once on that play that Broderick Jones allowed that pressure around the edge. Green's issues are snapping consistency. And anytime he has to slide and pass protection, whenever he can somebody's head up on him or rushing down the middle, he's actually, I think, done a decent job. And there were some decent run blocks of him kind of moving some people in that game. But I mean, obviously, just the execution of snapping the football is a terrible problem for him.
Yeah. Was that your article this morning? No,
that was Matthew.
Yeah, Matthew. Once again, it all comes down to where's your level of trust with Herbig then behind him. And it's going to be interesting to watch these final, I guess, 19 days, if you will, or probably even a little less than that, because they'd probably want to get, the final cut downs a good week before that. So I would guess in about, 14 days, we'll know who the backup center is. Is that about right?
I mean, I think officially
15 days.
By then, but what cut down is August 29th. I think I said before the 31st. I apologize. It is the 29th. I imagine by the end of August, we should know, just based on the moves that they've made. Because if they claim somebody up waivers, yeah. I mean, obviously, they could do something last second, but I think by the end of the month, we should at least, based on who they've added or who they haven't added, know.
I mean, this has gone kind of the way I envisioned it going with Green this offseason. And I'll tell you what, if Nate Herbig is healthy with that shoulder and can play, Thursday night. I tried to get him some snaps at center.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. The question is, if he's not healthy, what do you're going to go with your backup center with 9 snaps in the preseason? You probably do it unless you add somebody outside. I was taking a look at Green's snapping issues, and he's had a couple that were offline that Mason Rudolph did a nice job to bail him out from. And what I've noticed is, and this is not an issue on the bad snap that resulted in the turnover, but whenever Green has to move to his left in the blocking scheme off the ball, he has a tendency to snap to the right of the quarterback because he's moving to his left. His momentum's kind of taking him that way. And it's not an excuse, and he can't do it, and it's a big problem, but that's actually what is happening with him on all the offline snaps that he's had. The one total miss against Tampa Bay, a couple others that Rudolph has had to corral. Green has moved to his left every single time. So there's an actual I don't know what you want to call it. It's a technique execution issue, but that's the commonality there. On the one against the Bills, I don't know if this is the case, but I wonder if Green felt like Buffalo was offsides on that play, because one of those guys moved at right as the ball was snapped, and right after the snap, McCollum, the left guard, was like pointing to that and signaling offsides. I wonder if that's what Green was thinking. Again, not an excuse. He cannot be the backup center, but I wonder if that was his thought.
As far as the rest of the offensive line went, I mean, in their limited play against Buffalo, I thought it was going to say Amalo good. Cole being able to reach and turn on that run. I mean, just the blocking. I mean, they're blocking up and down on that offensive line, and then coupled with Deontay Johnson, obviously down the field and making really the key 1-2 spring Warren. I thought that group was fine. I thought. I went back and I clipped the Spencer Anderson illegal hands to the face and tried to zoom in it. And I guess it's so hard to see there, but it looks like he did get maybe that hand on the face mask there that caused that penalty. I thought for the most part, Anderson represented himself well, especially for a guy that had to play 4 different positions in there. I thought Dylan Cook, once again, you want to talk about someone who's kind of coming out of nowhere. Now, I don't think he makes the 53, but I think he's legitimate practice squad material there. Who else do I have down in here? I mean, everybody else was really just kind of mad. Ryan McCollum. I mean, Kevin Dotson, LaRaven Clark just didn't look great at all. And man, I think Mike Tomlin really wanted to see something out of that grouping that they had down at the goal line.
Yeah, they got no push.
Yeah, they didn't do Anthony McFarland any favors in that situation whatsoever. So I mean, I think it's pretty evident. Obviously it comes down to numbers. It feels like it's going to be 9 on that offensive line, and we're back to the only question. I think Spencer. I think they're grooming Spencer Anderson to be number 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only question is it Kevin Dotson or is it another outside center?
Yeah, I think you're 100% right about that. I think Anderson will make it. I think they really wanted to take a look at him. I think they like his competitiveness in football IQ, and the tape's been pretty good overall for as much as they put on a 7th-round rookie's plate. And yeah, I think you're right. It comes down to Dotson. And I don't know what to make of Kevin Dotson. I'm going to continue to kind of be conflicted. There's talent, but I see, I think he's a frustrating player. I don't think he's a good scheme fit. I don't know what they're going to do with him.
Wouldn't you want something when talking about those line rotations? I mean, you went out of your way to get McCollum snaps at both guard spots. Why wouldn't you have used that opportunity to get Kevin Dotson opportunities at both guard spots? It feels like a sense that we really want to showcase him maybe at left guard for what you see where I'm going down here. I mean, if you really had intentions on keeping Kevin Dotson, wouldn't you want to see him more at right guard throughout this preseason here, or no?
I don't know if that's where my head goes. I guess it's hard to evaluate.
Maybe I've just got my tinfoil hat on, too tight here. But that was something that was running through my mind.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't gotten a ton of work at right guard this summer. I know he's gotten some. He played some on the opener against Tampa Bay. He is dealing with that shoulder injury, so they may want to limit some of his snaps there. I don't know what the exact snap count on him was in this game. I know he played, a fair amount, but, McCollum, he's played both guard spots. It didn't really surprise me too much.
Okay.
But yeah, if they keep Kevin Dotson and they keep Anderson as 8 and 9, then your backup center's got to be Herbig, correct?
That would be correct, sir.
All right. So and hopefully, I really hope he can play against the Falcons. I have no idea if he'll be able to or not, but really hoping that he can.
All right. I agree.
Dotson,
by the way, 29 all at left guard.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a place he's gotten a lot of work at, so they just wanted to keep him there. Maybe, if I want to put my tinfoil hat on, they wanted to keep him at left guard because he's played there the most, and they want to make sure he's got the best tape possible if he's a potential trade candidate, as opposed to working him at right guard where he hasn't played in a long time and might not look quite as good.
Well, that's why that's kind of the whole I was starting to go down there.
Okay.
Are they trying to showcase him here at that left guard spot?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I guess I see where you're coming from there, but it's obviously hard to read into. I had one, and people might yell at me for this, and I've actually made mention of this before with Deontay Johnson. I think he's had a really good camp. I'm excited for Deontay. This is going to sound very like old newspaper head kind of griping. I just wish he would celebrate with his teammates more. He throws that really good block on Jaylen Warren for the touchdown, and then he just doesn't run into the end zone to celebrate with Warren. I mean, you see Calvin Austin, you see, I think it was Gunner or somebody else ran down there and celebrated with him. And, Deontay's been a guy that doesn't typically join his teammates in the end zone for celebrations.
Well, wait a minute. On the Freiermuth, didn't he chest bump with Freiermuth on his? I don't remember on that one. I could have sworn that I saw. I could have sworn that I saw him celebrating with I think Freiermuth after that. Maybe I'm wrong. But,
no, he might have. I mean, I don't remember. I mean, he might have been more in the area there. I guess sometimes when he's kind of like not close to the end zone, he doesn't always run down there. I don't know. It's probably a dumb gripe by me. I just noticed that kind of over the years, and maybe that's some of the frustration he's had for not finding the end zone or just whatever. I'm not trying to accuse him of anything. I just kind of had that note there.
Look, and Warren went out of his way to make sure after the game to credit Deontay Johnson on that block. So I wouldn't think there's a rip between those two or anything.
No, I don't think it's anything like that. I just think it's just kind of the approach that Johnson takes, because it's happened, last year it was happening a ton, and I kind of talked about it briefly. So I don't think it's an issue of that. And yeah, Deontay, had a great block on that play. Like it was, key. And I pointed that out pretty quickly. That's the second, third level type stuff this offense needs to create some of those explosive runs. So it's a very, very minor thing, but I did, because you throw the block for the guy, go celebrate with him, but it's obviously, not a big deal.
Alex Kozora, 30 going on 60.
It really feels like that. My terrible take today is about the NFL schedule. We talked about all the griping there. So I got a lot of, it's the airing of the grievances, I guess, today.
Your terrible take, clouds, why I hate them.
Yeah, shake my fist at them for 2 minutes. All right, any other thoughts here for the offense? Yeah, I think once the backups came in, I thought the O-line was kind of...
I thought you did a great job of pointing out that swim over by Washington on that route. And correct me if I'm wrong, because you didn't show that was the deep one down the left side to Austin, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I know you looked at that one. Austin probably couldn't have made a play on it. It felt a little bit wide.
You know what ran through my head though? Does Pickens make
me too? Yeah, 100% Pickens makes that play, because obviously he's just a much taller dude, much bigger dude.
I mean, it and the only reason I want to look at it, because you couldn't get a good view on it because it being on the far sideline on the TV angle. I want to see how close. It wasn't an awful ball. I just think for what the skill set of Austin is, it's not a ball that you're going to expect him to come down with 7 times out of 10 when putting that instance there. If he had stacked a little bit better, and you put that out in front of him. But I mean, that's a whole kind of timing thing. I think if same situation there, same ball, same everything, same positioning, I think Pickens maybe makes that catch there.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that goes back to my comment with Austin that, he's been a talented guy and had a really good camp, and he's going to be an explosive element to this offense, but the ball kind of has to be right on him if it's anywhere outside that frame, just because he is a small guy without great length. He's not going to make that play most of the time.
Well, I'm liking these slants that we're seeing so far in this limited time here. Austin, that nice fire release there off on that one there. He's going to cause some people some issues that can't get hands on him at the line of scrimmage there. He's you do that. He's going. I'm going to tell you this. He's going to have a 60-yarder off of the slant this year.
Ooh,
Austin
I like it.
Is.
I'm with you.
That speed. I think you continue to try to work George Pickens into that slant this year as well too. And as we said in this previous podcast here, I mean they've got some weapons on offense, Alex. It's just how you utilize these things and how you read the coverages pre-snap and be able to check to some of this stuff and making sure these guys, read their hots on these blitzes and all like that. I mean, if the communication's there, they have the ability to work in a lot more slants in this offense, and then that in turn should produce a byproduct of some yards after the catch. Man, you've heard Pickens talk about it in a couple of these interviews so far. Even in man, how great was that Ryan Clark pivot, man? Man, they do a great job with that pivot, especially things Steelers related there, because just kind of in the tease promo there, they're talking to George Pickens there, and he says, working on my yards after the catch is one of the things that he has to do, but I mean back to the game there, or really the first two preseason games in general, liking these slants, and you've got three guys that could take it to the house in that situation. Deontay, Pickens, and now Calvin Austin. I'm not so convinced Allen Robinson's the guy that's going to take 1 yard in those situations, but he's another one that you can obviously throw that to out of the slot.
Yeah, like I said, there's a collection of weapons overall. It's an exciting group. And I mean, like I said, all the pieces are there. The excuses are over. This team has grown. They went through their growing pains last year, and now it's time to put up or shut up.
What else on offense there? Anything else tight end related?
Well, yeah, I was going to mention, I thought, Washington, that route that he ran was good. And I thought Mitch Trubisky made a really good point that Matthew Marksey wrote about this morning. I mean, he drew 2 pass interference calls in the end zone on that one fade, and then one, which was kind of a risky throw by Trubisky and could have been picked there, but there was a lot of contact. And so he's, Washington's a guy where DBs, try to get hands on him because they're just trying to stay on the guy, and it's tough to cover him in the red zone. So to draw 2 penalties like that, extended that drive that created the Connor Hayward touchdown, which was a nice route. I think you made the good point yesterday that Hayward kind of had to bully his way through that route there and make a contested catch. But yeah, Washington's a guy that may draw 5 pass interference calls this year.
Can you see this tight end group now? A couple of seasons ago, obviously with Roethlisberger, Freiermuth had what? Was it 7 touchdowns that season, his rookie season, or was it 9?
He had a bunch and didn't have him last year, but I don't know the exact number on that.
He only had what was it, 2 last year? He had 7 he had 7 touchdown receptions his rookie season. Could you see this tight end group over or under 10.5 touchdown receptions by the tight ends?
A good number.
Well, because I mean that's an interesting number, especially when you look at the over/under number for Kenny Pickett throwing touchdown passes. Is what, 18.5 or 19? It might have bumped up or maybe even gone to 19.5. But is 9.5 a good number? Would you take the under or over on 9.5 for tight end touchdown receptions? Because you've got to utilize Washington a few times in those situations, you would think.
Sure, and I expect him to. I mean, that's kind of how training camp went for him. He was a guy that had 7 touchdowns in training camp. That tied for the team lead with George Pickens on far fewer receptions. I actually was messing around with some of those stats last night. I know it's just camp stats, doesn't mean a ton, but last year in training camp, Pittsburgh's tight ends had 9 touchdowns. This year, they had 17, and so you saw almost a doubling of that from one camp to the next. So would I take the over on that? It still feels a bit aggressive, just knowing this team's going to run the ball a lot, especially in the red zone with the improved offensive line, and Kenny Pickett's not going to throw for 30 touchdowns this year. So I'd probably take the under, but I think in that, let's say you give Freiermuth 5. Well, you got Connor Hayward there, but you give, 4 to Freiermuth and 1 to Hayward and 2 to Washington. I mean, it's going to be in the ballpark, but I might still slightly take the under.
Okay.
But I think the tight end room is really deep. I mean, it's got a lot of talent there with Freiermuth and Washington and Hayward and Gentry as a probable reserve. It's a really good looking group.
And I think statistics bear it out too, right? About the fade in the end zone, how the percentage and all like that. Even if you got a big boy out there, but I mean, like I said in that podcast the other day, you need to bring a ladder. When whoever you have, unless you have a 6'2" corner or something, guarding him, I can see a couple of pass interference calls in the end zone that move the ball to the 1, and give the opportunity to pound it in that way, and that's obviously hit, not necessarily hidden yards, but hidden plays in the box score there.
Yeah, and I think Washington showed that in this one. So any other thoughts here for the offense? Wide receivers, I don't know the wide receivers did a whole lot, even the backups. I mean, Gunner had a couple decent plays.
I thought Cody had a nice kind of release and catch, I think, off of one of those slants, didn't he? But
yeah, he drew a call and then he had another tough catch. Yeah, so but to me, still practice squad for Cody White.
And then I think really Dez Fitzpatrick had a nice shoestring tackle on that Harvin punt.
Yeah, I thought the punt coverage was excellent in this game. It's Boykin and Fitzpatrick, and I think Harvin, like I mentioned yesterday, might have just sewn up his spot. Mm-hmm. All right, flipping over to the defense, I've not gone through the all 22. I've gotten through about the first half, so you may have watched kind of the second half more than I have. Back, Dave, what are your initial impressions?
It was good to see the safety play in this one. With those starters there, I thought, Minka coming down. Minka was ready for action in his little limited play, busting up the tight end, putting him into the running back on one of those running plays. As far as the starters went, Cam Hayward wasn't in there very long. To really get it, a solid little bit, but I mean, you don't have to worry about Cam in all this. I'm still conflicted on. I'm very conflicted on who that 7th, because I don't think Loudermilk overly represented himself very well in there. I didn't see Watts really stick out. I mean, Leal's going to make this team almost by default in there. I don't think a lot of I didn't see any separation as far as those second team guys in this one.
Yeah, I think that's a fair evaluation. It's really weird. I think in game, at least, Leal has been better against the run than he has been as a pass rusher. I think he's been locked up as a pass rusher and not really gotten much pressure. And he's just lacking kind of a move. I mean, he's a really good athlete, but just trying to refine his game overall. So that's kind of got me confused.
I'm really wondering. I continue to wonder what to do in Montravius Adams, because it's not fantastic. But of people not named Keanu Benton, and the limited tape that we've seen on him so far. I mean, and look, Fajoko's evidently looked good in practice, specifically against the run. We know Watts has the ability to move around in there, but I don't know what kind of your overarching thoughts on him was coming out of camp, but it's not, to me, it's not like Watts has flashed in much of any in the preseason here. Loudermilk had that, little burst there, I guess, at the end of camp into that first preseason game. It's making it's making the back end of this thing a lot more difficult to decide. I mean, do you carry, because Benton's, are you going to keep all three of Montravius, Benton, and Fajoko?
I think it's still possible, because obviously Benton's going to be kept. I think they like Belko in the run defense. He may not be active on game days, but I think they want to keep him. And then Adams may still be the starter, considering he's been the starter this whole time. I think he's had a good showing overall, and Benton has been dinged by that ankle injury and did not play against the Bills, at least defensively. Got a couple of field goal reps in there, but that was it. And we'll see what his status is for the Falcons game.
I mean, I'm not wrong, right? I mean, as far as these guys not seeing any separation with those second team, third team guys.
Yeah, I think in this game I didn't see a whole lot. I think the D line wasn't as strong in this game overall. I think it's been, competitive for those final spots. I mentioned some of the tough cuts there and trying to decide. I mean, if you were keeping 7, which is heavier than usual, but if you were to keep 7 today, who is the odd man out? You still think it's Adams?
Well, once again, because nobody's pushing on, I was hoping to see more solid play out of a guy, say like Watts,
Mm-hmm. How do you view Watts versus Loudermilk? Because there may be a 2 dogs, 1 bone situation there.
I think Watts is the better all-around player.
So you think he should make it over Loudermilk?
Yeah, but I mean, I think the athleticism there and the more position, flex. I just think you get, and it's not. Look, it's not like it's a sweeping landslide decision in my mind, but I just think Watts is the better player of the two.
I think he is the better athlete, the better pass rusher. I think he can be a little bit more out of control, a little more erratic, a little less balanced than Loudermilk, who's got to stay on his feet as well. So it's kind of an interesting discussion there because I think Watts is more toolsy and Loudermilk might be a little bit more consistent.
Does it feel like Watts is better the closer to the center he is?
I don't know if I've had that feeling, but I don't know if I've really thought about it that much. I know he played a lot of nose tackle and one tech over the last couple of years, more so than defensive end. So it might be a bit more natural to him. Some of that quickness off the ball probably helps when he can swim the center or kind of get in the one gap and penetrate. So that might be true.
Well, here's the thing. If you keep 7, one of them's got to be inactive, you would think, on game day.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, in my scenario, it's probably Fehoko if you go off my last 53-man roster edition.
Okay.
But, could Adams be cut? I mean, yeah. But if you have a good camp and you run first team the whole time, are you going to get cut?
The tape hasn't given me the tape through two preseason games hasn't given me any sweeping consensus view that Adams should be cut. However, my gut continues to tell me that he might be the odd man out here just from he's been with you. You know what he is. You look, he's not killing him on the salary, as far as salary and all goes. I mean, you obviously want to keep the better player if that's possible, but I just don't know how much more of a better player he is over a guy like Fehoko, like a combination of Fehoko Watts, if you will.
Yeah. So you think Watts and Loudermilk could still make it? May not be an either or between those two. Is that your thought?
Yeah, once again, I don't know how it's going to shake out on the back end with that thing.
Yeah, I don't know either. Right
You could keep Watts and Fehoko, or you could keep Watts and Adams. Or you could, or you could keep Adams and Fehoko. So, I don't think maybe we'll get some more clarity in this last preseason game here.
I think you're right. I think this game may mean as much to the defensive line battles as it will to any position battle in this finale across this team.
And then you got the whole historical thing, but look, historical history is just that, history, right? When it comes to the whole guys they sign early in the offseason. However, if you are going to give that any credence there, you would think that both Fehoko and Watts were predestined to make this roster.
Yes, although that was mostly under Kevin Colbert.
Right.
How does Omar Khan approach things? It may be different.
Right.
Because this is his first full offseason of actually having a whole free agency to sign guys and make these kind of type moves, and we don't know exactly what the track record will be.
I guess we just spent 15 minutes of me to tell you I didn't learn much about the about the second and third teamers, defensive linemen guys in the second preseason All-22.
And I spent 15 minutes saying I agree. I don't know if there's a lot of separation there going into the finale. All right, outside linebacker.
I'll try to focus even more on that group later today if I got some time and go through it. Maybe we can revisit this on Wednesday before because that'll obviously be a day before the game there. But I just, you're trying to watch so much stuff at one time and plow through it there. I didn't have any real earth-shattering takeaways from that second and third team group.
Outside linebackers, I think, look good overall. Herbig's impact, obviously. I thought Marcus Golden, you mentioned him. I thought his chase after the ball, he's always been a high-effort guy. I thought that was evident on the one screenplay that I think got called back for a illegal block in the back, whatever it was. But, Golden, high effort. Of course, Watt, Highsmith was really good in this game, making a ton of plays, coverage, effort, pass rush. How'd you think Herbig did against the run? Probably still some work to be done there, just staying on his feet, keying the ball, stuff you would expect from a rookie, but maybe that's one negative thing to talk about.
Yeah, but sometimes, I can think of one play specifically in that first half, man. He uses that athleticism just to duck it and get back in there,
Mm-hmm.
So
the one where he made the tackle, or are you talking a different play?
Yeah, he got in. Him in a corner. Him in a corner, I think, got in on one of them when he was on the right side, when he was playing right outside linebacker.
Okay.
I'm trying to think.
It might be a different play than what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I mean, he made some plays against the run for sure, but maybe just looking for just a bit more consistency there.
And that's probably how he's going to win. As he continues to develop, that's probably how he's going to have to win against run initially. Is not give up on the play and use kind of his athleticism to spin off, and get into the play. But I didn't come away once again when watching him against the run of thinking, oh Lord, that's awful.
No, definitely not. But just some things to probably work on, as you would expect for any rookie. The way that Broderick Jones is working on his hands and technique, it's the same for Nick Herbig, who again, overall high impact player. I mean, not knocking the game overall. He was certainly a winner from this one.
Look, it's only been 40 snaps, and like I said on that podcast the other day, man, I've seen enough, and he's going against who's the Syracuse tackle that's with the Falcons now that I watched a lot of Bergeron.
Oh yeah.
Isn't he going to probably play a lot of snaps at right tackle for the Falcons Thursday night, I would think? Oh man, you want to circle. And here's the thing: I think another good takeaway with Herbig here specifically is that he hasn't looked lost on either side here of the line of scrimmage here. And I do think that potentially maybe left outside might be his best spot of the two. I look for that matchup between him and Bergeron, because there were some questions I had about Bergeron when looking at his tape, because he was that, him and Anton Harrison were those two tackles that were the next two outside of the top. What was it? 3 or 4?
Right. Parrish Johnson, Skronsky, Jones, right.
Right. Here. So, Bergeron was the guy that you kind of thought, looking at his tape, is he a tackle or is he a guard? And I think the Falcons have him plugged in at tackle there. So you want something to kind of look forward to, Herbig versus Bergeron in this game. But I think my main takeaway after 40 snaps with Herbig is you're going to have to find a way, even in some pass rushing situations, maybe to get him on the field, because I think he can be impactful and make some play. He's not going to come out of his rookie season with 0 sacks, and he's not going to come out of his rookie season probably with less than 3 sacks if we're being quite honest right now.
Could you see some of the 2023 outside linebacker packages? I mean, they had Bud and Highsmith and Watt out there, and somebody in the A gap. I mean, you probably see a mix of that this year.
Yeah, because look, I mean, wherever Watt is, he's going to get attention, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So why wouldn't you take advantage of maybe moving him around and give opposing defenses, and really Highsmith for that matter? I mean, you could do either one of those guys and move them around there and potentially set up a one-on-one situation for whoever is on the outside there, or Herbig or Highsmith or Golden. Look, I mean, Golden, and I think you kind of opened this position group with that. Golden kind of gets, because of what Herbig has done so far in his snaps, Golden gets pushed to the as an afterthought, and he's been good.
Yeah, he had a really good one. He had, you said, Drew, the holding call, a great rush that you'd mentioned on that right tackle to bull him and get him off his feet, chasing the ball. I mean, just solid play.
Yeah, and here's the thing that stuck out about his tape the last two seasons with him is, man, he's really good at chasing stuff down on the backside. And additional just his overall hustle to the ball was one of the things I think we highlighted there. And you saw that on that one play. I think that was called back on a hold or something there on the Bills there. So here's the thing: the tape does not lie usually. Usually what you see, especially with new players and going back and looking at their last year or two of performances, you should see on the tape. And even though it's preseason, a small sample size on these guys, you're seeing that with a guy like Golden.
I think my charting is gonna be as eventful as ever this year when I do the defense in the regular season, because you're gonna see a lot of rotations, inside linebacker, outside linebacker, all these, 3 outside linebacker packages, the safety rotation, which we'll talk about in a second. This team's gonna, I think, use a bunch of different people in a bunch of different ways defensively.
Now, have we seen Golden much at right?
I can check. We have the technology. I can check my charting. Probably not, but I will see
real quick here.
What our master charting.
I don't remember seeing him at. Let's see. No, he's been 25 snaps all at left outside linebacker.
Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna play this by sides. I know Herbig has flipped and played both, but I wonder if Golden's gonna be the backup left outside linebacker for TJ Watt, and then Herbig's gonna play more right outside to replace Highsmith, and that's a way to get both more consistent snaps.
Okay, but Herbig looks dangerous off that, and I think Herbig does. I mean, I think he likes seeing the face of the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he could do both. And where was his sack against Tampa Bay? That was from the left side, wasn't it?
Yes,
the full sack that he had. Yeah,
yes,
so I think all of the sacks
even the half sack, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, obviously both are going to
that might be something to look for in this fanatic, because I mean, Tomlin says that all healthy players going to play, yada yada. Starters going to play as well too. Maybe that's something to look for as well too. Will we see Golden get some snaps at right outside linebacker?
Yeah, because it's really felt like Herbig, you're right, has made most of his plays on the left side, and he just might be more comfortable there. TJ Watts talked about he was more comfortable once he flipped, just kind of he could do stuff on the left side he couldn't do on the right side.
Now, within that, he hasn't looked. Talk about Herbie. He hasn't looked off on that right side. Even that, I had to go back and pull that false start there as well too. Man, he is so locked in on his get off. Even though it's a false start on his play, when I say move, you move. And that's his get off even on that false start was tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, the dude's explosive. That's for sure. And he's going to stress these tackles. They're going to worry about speed, and he's going to counter with those inside spins and head fakes and swims to the inside, and that's how he's going to win. So I think he's got an array of moves that is going to make him tough to stop, because you never know what he's going to bring. To
recap, I mean, we've been hollering about this outside linebacker depth for a couple of seasons now, and it feels like this room is the best it's been. Oh, Lord.
It's 2020 when you had Bud, Naismith, and Watt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you got a fourth guy now, obviously, now, and you have Herbig and Golden there. So it's when was the last time they had this good of a four, if you included just, four really quality rushers? I mean, I guess when they had Melvin Ingram for those 8 seconds, then that was a pretty good looking room. But anyway, I do want to mention with the defensive line, I do love they continue to stem the front, and they got a false start. Buffalo was really sloppy in this game, but Pittsburgh helped the cause by having that late line shift where everybody kind of bumps over a gap to influence those younger tight ends and guys further away from the football to jump, and they got them to jump once. They got false starts on that like 5 or 8 times last year. So I love that stemming the front there at home to get these guys to move.
Linebackers, I thought all of them pretty downhill played very, very well coming downhill. We forgot to mention, I think we mentioned the other day, Highsmith in coverage. I don't think you want to get in make it a habit of getting a guy like Highsmith on a guy like Diggs, but he played that extremely well with leverage and all like that, and had to pass breakup on that. The inside linebackers, I thought they played downhill for the most part very, very well. Looked like there were maybe a gap issue or two on some of those plays there. I mean, this linebacker group, even throwing in, the new guy, Alexander, those top four and including Robinson all seem to play downhill very, very, very well. I think out in space, Holcomb, I can see him getting gigged in some coverage issues, especially when having to guard against, an out-breaking route or something like that. And I think he did in this game here. However, when you let a guy like him, did you go back and look at that play on the interception?
Yeah, you're right. He was head all over the place, and then he found the football and tipped it.
I mean, I really think you saw his IQ kind of come into play of reading and reacting and making sure he got himself in the passing lane in that situation there. And really the only negative on that play is he didn't make the interception, but at least he got a hand on it. Ball went up and Elijah Riley did there. But could this team get in a situation where Quan comes on the field, I guess, when you have one inside linebacker out there?
Yeah, they did run one snap a dime in this game. Who was the inside linebacker on that snap? Was it Quan or was it Holcomb? Let me double check my notes here. We saw it once, and so I was happy to see dime here in the preseason. Just to note it, Quan Alexander was the inside linebacker on that play. We'll see. I think they're all going to rotate. I think there'll be times where even Holcomb is coming off the field and it's Alexander and Roberts. Yeah, I had a note I thought on that Holcomb tip that Riley picked up. I'm trying to see if I have it in my notes here. It was really, I think, good pre-snap recognition. It was a 3-by-1 formation. In the red zone, you're probably expecting a crosser backside, and he's kind of looking for something coming across. And I don't know where my note is at, but yeah, I think the recognition, he kind of knew that someone was going to come backside on that play, and they did. But yeah, point is, I think he did have some issues in coverage, but man, it's a hard job to cover in space as an inside linebacker. You're covering Dalton Kincaid, who's a freaky athlete, rookie tight end, going to be a big player for the Bills. I mean, there's like two linebackers in the NFL that are going to be able to cover that guy.
All right, I think you spent a little bit. You got anything else? That Tanner Muse, I thought, had a good game, and with Kwiatkowski, missing time, and with Muse being more athletic overall, and at this stage, the better special teams player. Assuming they keep 5, and it's hard to imagine them not. It feels like Tanner Muse is going to be that number 5.
Yeah, he should be, I think, over Kwiatkowski. It is funny just to watch the fumble recovery that he had off the Herbig strip sack. The ball just kind of like Muse is not even looking for the football. I don't think he even knows it's a forced fumble or anything like that. And the ball just kind of rolling there. Then it kind of gets bounced back to him and he kind of falls on it. So it's just kind of the funniest fumble luck there. He didn't do a whole lot in the fumble recovery, but he had a good game overall.
All right. What you have something coming on the safeties, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm still in the middle of having to chart it out, so I want to make sure I'm as accurate as possible. But I made mention of this yesterday that we're seeing in base packages in Pittsburgh's 3-4, Keanu Neal primarily plays safety opposite of Minkah Fitzpatrick, and then in nickel you're seeing Casey come on. So there's a really interesting rotation there. If I can trying to find my notes, I have something that I shouldn't have on right now for charting this thing, but. You are seeing a really interesting division of labor when it comes to safety.
What did you think about the play of the top 3?
I thought it was fine overall. They're rotating and, Minkah's buzzing down. So that's good to see. That's going to be in his wheelhouse for sure. Casey's a guy that loves to hit. I think I made a note that him and Landon Roberts are the pile movers. When they hit people, the pile moves back. Guys stop. You don't fall forward when Casey and Landon Roberts hit you. So, I thought, overall the top guys look pretty good. I want to give me 1 second here to pull up the data on the safety rotation, but I will have kind of a breakdown for this on the site. What were your thoughts on the safety, Steve?
Once again, I thought they all played very well, especially for as long as they were in the game there. When you get into some of the back end stuff there, some of that shoulder tackling has to go. They got to wrap up. Who was it? Trenton Thompson about I thought he was going to get knocked out of that game. I think with one of those that he had. Kenny Robinson needs to square up better. Those guys just out in space. I think just they need to bring their feet and wrap up and roll with some of those tackles instead of just trying to shoulder tackle overall. I think we both agree that Miles Killebrew is going to make it, I guess, technically as a safety, even though he's a special teamer. The only real question, I think, at this point, when assuming all these guys stay healthy, and we'll have to see if Trey Norwood can get on the field. Man, you want to talk about a guy, and I think you wrote this up, guys missing time or whatnot that have hurt themselves. Trey Norwood, it's very unfortunate, especially with the way you talked about the start of camp that he had. He needs to get on the field in this last preseason game. I think for sure. Now, within that, I don't think Kenny Robinson's done anything overly amazing outside of training camp to force your hand to keep him.
Yeah, the question is, will they just keep 4 safeties?
Right.
That's kind of, I think, where we're both trending right now.
Right. And let's see, what did Kenny Robinson do on special teams in this game? He played 11 snaps. He played 12 snaps on special teams in the first game. Kenny Robinson did. He played 11 this past week, and he was core pretty much, I think, all the way around there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been the in-stadium stuff's not been as impressive as the camp stuff. I still think he's practice squad likely, but he's faded from the odds of making the 53.
Right. I would be. This lines up with kind of the way my last 53 was. And I did you keep 5 safeties or no?
No, I went 4 in the last one.
All right. You went 6 cornerbacks as well, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah, I think we had the same DB configuration.
Right. So there's nothing to make me think that it. Especially with Riley, having some position flexibility, if you will, it still feels like it's shaping up that way. I would like to see Trey Norwood get back on the field against the Falcons, though, and make a charge at this thing.
And Tomlin hinted that Norwood should be able to play, and for his sake, he better be able to. So I think he'll be out there. Pulling up the data on the safety situation, in the first quarter, so just with the starting defense, whenever Pittsburgh went nickel, it was Casey and Fitzpatrick, and then whenever it was base 3-4, it was Neal and Fitzpatrick, and then he mixed in some of that big nickel, the 3 safety looks too. How many snaps did they do on that? Let me check here. Looks like 2 snaps on the big nickel safety package. That by that point, Minka was out of the game. Kenny Robinson came in, but Minka just obviously will substitute for Kenny Robinson. So mixing and matching everything. But it sounds like in the regular season, in base 3-4, it's going to be Neal and Fitzpatrick, and in nickel, it's going to be Casey and Fitzpatrick.
Okay. What about corners in this game? You just had a nice film room on Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah, to see his debut, I think it was good overall. I mean, it was kind of, in his wheelhouse. It was a lot of press man. It was a lot of bump and run type of coverage. The interception broke that down. You had the article with the quote on Porter and, talking about the coaching points that the coaches had just given him about rerouting the receiver out of bounds. Look for the ball. It's going to be there. That's exactly what happened on that play. But even some of the other reps, I thought his patience, some of these foot fires that wide receivers like to do off the line, he didn't bite. I thought overall, not a ton of snaps, but a good showing.
I haven't really gone nuanced into him, but kind of one of the concerns about him was the clutching and all like that. What'd you see about kind of his hand usage, or did you go that nuanced?
No, I did. I mean, the first thing I noticed, and I still hear his voice in my head, defensive backs coach Grady Brown. He's always telling these guys high hands in their press coverage, and so you see Porter with his hands up high, and basically every single snap, very much the coaching point there. But I think to your comment about, is he kind of grabby downfield? There was one early in the game, I think on the third down, the one where Allen ran around where there was a lot of some contact there with Gabe Davis, but Porter's just going to have to find the line between using his size, using his length, but not being overly grabby. I didn't see it as a big problem though in this game. I don't think he was, overly grabby or anything like that.
All right. And the thing with him now is continue to get those coaching points. And as Mike Tomlin said after the game, we can't get him enough snaps. So they obviously want to push him along in this thing as quickly as possible and get him on the field as much as early as possible. throughout his rookie season here. But, Levi's been, I think, as you stated, really, really consistent. You kind of know what you get with Pat Pete back there, which shout out Pat Pete if you're listening. I thought, man, Chandler Sullivan, that was a hell of a damn play that he made on the interception there. I think, right. I mean, it's really is. This battle really has shaped up better than what I initially thought it would going into like OTAs and stuff like that. Right. I was kind of worried about the Chandon Sullivan signing initially there, but it feels like he's meshing in. It feels like generally he's had a good camp. I mean, they both made plays during camp, right? Even though Chandon primarily ran with the first team in slot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. They were rotating early in camp, and then by the end, it was basically Sullivan first team, Riley second team. I think both have done well. I think both have good odds to make the 53. I just know that Sullivan, he was, one of the worst corners last year. And so, how much does his preseason now override that? I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but I know his track record's not been one of a great corner, but I think Pittsburgh at least has more clarity at slot corner than obviously where they were, 3 months ago.
Who do you view as the better off the edge coming?
Between Riley and Sullivan?
Right.
Riley, for sure. I mean, he's the safety type is more downhill. I mean, Sullivan can play it a little bit, but Riley to me is still that better rundown type of corner.
All right. And how much do you think we'll see maybe Pat Pete coming off the edge if he's in the slot?
I mean, he did it a couple times in camp. Probably not a ton because he will kick inside and so some of those third and long situations where it's a bit more coverage oriented. He may blitz, a time or two, but probably not a terrible amount of times.
Do you feel better about this? Let's say they keep the 6. How do you feel about this 6 versus the 6 that they went into last season? Or was it 6?
I can't remember how many they kept
5.
initially.
Wasn't it 5 last? That's going to bug me now. To see
we can go through
the
Sutton,
season.
Wallace, Witherspoon, Millette. That's 4. Pierre's 5. Did they keep a 6? I don't know if they kept 6 behind.
Let's see. Witherspoon, Sutton. Well, they used Norwood in the slot to, I think, to open that game last year. Let's see. Specific corners. It was Witherspoon, Sutton. It was Wallace, Millette, Pierre.
And that's the 5 I'm looking
and that's it. Yeah.
They kept 5 corners, 5 safeties last year. And as you said, Norwood, could be used in the slot.
Right.
I do want to mention the Steelers dime package and just to get the names out there. Said it a moment ago, but the 6 DBs, Porter and Wallace as the outside corners. Porter left corner, Wallace right corner, Patrick Peterson in the slot, and then basically Casey and Minka as your 2 traditional safeties with Neal kind of more floating and kind of a dime backer-ish type of role, but those were the 6 DBs, which is basically what I expected it to be and what they were showing in camp.
All right, good call.
Anything else here? Anything other thoughts defensively? Special teams. I'm kind of working through special teams tape. Almost had 1 block punt. I think Landon Roberts might have missed an assignment there that Pittsburgh kind of got away with. But overall, the specialists look good. The gunners, Fitzpatrick and Boykin, they were really solid. So good stuff all around.
All right. I actually looked at a little punting, Alex.
Hey, what'd you think?
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think, and if you look statistically, if you just look at the box score at what Presley Harvin the third did on Saturday night, you probably say, "Oh man, not good." Because I think on paper it was 30. Hold on here, my notes. 38.2 average. You look at that, you wonder what the hell happened there. But obviously you have to go a lot more nuanced in there because he had 5 punts in this game, and the statistics are obviously a bit deceptive because of where he was punting from on the field. 3 of those 5 punts, Alex, came with the original line of scrimmage being on the Bills side of the field. And his long punt Saturday night was 52 yards, and that one was from the Steelers 40-yard line, and it was fielded by the Bills at the 8-yard line, and that was the play that Des Fitzpatrick had kind of that shoestring tackle on that only went for 2 yards. He had let's see, all 5 of those landing within the Bills' 20-yard line. There's nothing wrong with that. And someone tried to point out, yeah, but didn't he have a 20-something yard punt in that game? Well, yeah, he did. But I think that was from like the Bills' 39-yard line, and it was fair caught at the 10. So there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing that I bet Mike Tomlin would have liked to have seen at the expense of his offense at some point in this game would have been Harvin backed up in his own end zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an open field type of punt. I think the most impressive thing I've seen from Harvin, I know there's so much focus on consistency, and there's been some good, some bad on that. I think but in stadium, in this game, I thought it was very consistent. But even in practice, and it's tough to judge punters in practice because there's no rush and there's no intensity really. But those I don't want to call them coffin corner because that's an antiquated term, but you know what I mean, like the pin deep type of punts that he had in this game. I thought Harvin was really good, much better than man in those situations when they would rep it. When they go in the punting period in training camp, they usually do 1 or 2 punts from Pittsburgh's own 40 as kind of to simulate the pin deep type punts, and then they do stuff with more open field type punts. And I thought Harvin was much more consistent than man was, and I think it kind of carried over into this game.
I don't know how Mike Tomlin's going to handle his punters in this game. My gut tells me he'll let each of them have opportunities, I think. However, I think he will be selective of when that happens. I think he's itching to get, once again, I think he would like to see Harvin, because the man punt against Tampa out of the end zone went for 50-something yards, but it wasn't a great punt. It was
go ahead.
It was a low line driver, and luckily, wasn't fielded on the hop, and it ended up getting, I don't know, what was it, like 13 yards or 14 yards of bounce on that, and I obviously hopped in the right direction there. It wasn't a great, on paper it looked a lot better than it did on the tape there. So I would think if Mike Tomlin gets the opportunity to have Presley Harvin III, because isn't that most of the problems, I think, what Harvin's had as part of his consistency is punts deep in the Steelers' own end where he's been. So one time he'll boom a 60-yarder, and the other time he'll boom a 37-yarder,
Yeah, I'd have to study where that might have shown up the most, but you're right. I mean, I know even the net in this game for Harvin probably didn't look good given the situation, but the name of the game, generally speaking, NFL is like inside the 20s, avoiding touchbacks, and net yardage. And net yardage is not just a punting term, it's a coverage term, but those are the numbers. So if you have a 50-yard punt that rolls in the end zone, you get 30 yards net, whatever the case is, that's not good enough. And so the net yardage and I think the inside of 20 numbers are the big metrics to look at when you're judging the punting unit.
And then obviously, look, I mean, every once in a while you're gonna have to have your gunners get down there and make a play too, right? Because and that's what happened in this game against the Bills too. You got a good one inside the 20 there, and you hope that your gunners can get down there and keep that thing out of the end zone.
Yeah, because if Miles Boykin didn't make that crazy dive, that may have been a touchback. That may have rolled in. It's hard to say for sure. So, I mean, Boykin did that. Fitzpatrick had that great tackle that, helped preserve net. I'm sure the net yardage on that play, what was it? I'm sure it was really good. Do you know what the net yardage on that?
On which one?
The one where Des Fitzpatrick made the tackle and kind of that longer punt. I think it was that was the 51-yarder. Right. So, and it was a return of 2. So I think 49. 49. Right? That's elite net. I mean, you're talking, top net averages. I'd have to check the numbers, but they probably sit around 45 yards or so. And again, that's unit reflection, not just punter reflection. But if you're getting 49 yards net, I mean, you're getting tremendous. And on that Boykin play, just to kind of mention that briefly, you get the great. You get that play, and then 2 plays later, you get the Joey Porter interception, which turns into the Connor Hayward touchdown. And so I bet you if Boykin doesn't make that play, you get a touchback there. There's no Joey Porter interception. There's no Hayward touchdown. I know it's just preseason, but you go up 14-0 to 21-0 before the half. I mean, those are all just big plays. And so Pittsburgh really won the field position battle well, I think, on both sides of the ball. But even the Miles Killebrew block, that's a chance where Buffalo's trying to pin Pittsburgh deep. And because of the partial block there, it's at the 25 where it bounced to. And so instead of being backed up inside your 10, you're at the 25, you got decent field position. I mean, hidden yardage is such an underrated factor in the game of football. Absolutely.
Make them go as long as they have to go,
Yeah.
Real quick on Riley. Riley's the better special teamer than Sullivan, right? I mean, that's an understood.
Yeah, I don't know how much Sullivan even played. I think he was on kick coverage. Do you have snap counts on Riley versus Sullivan?
I can. If you give me
I know
just,
Sullivan was running down kicks, and I'm pretty sure Riley was too. But Sullivan is not on punt team, and Riley's one of the wings.
I will tell you this, that Riley. Oh, I'm switched off. I went back to last year's game. Let me pull it up here real quick.
But I would say, yeah, Riley is the better special teamer. And I think, and we can talk about it more once you look up the number. If they keep 6, I don't think all 6 corners are going to be active. I guess Sullivan would be inactive until there was an injury that would give him a hat.
Sullivan played 7 special team snaps in this game, along with 14 defense. And Riley
was in that 11 range, 12.
Riley had 11. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So, but I said, would you, if they kept all those guys as the 6 corners, would Sullivan be inactive? That's kind of where I'm leaning right now.
I think there's a good chance that, because I think Riley's a better special teams player.
Yeah, and Peterson's going to kick inside on coverage downs, and so you need Sullivan's coverage skills a little bit less if Peterson's going to do that.
Okay.
All right, that's all I got from the All-22.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to watch a good conversation. I think a lot of good information there. Anything else to cover, Dave?
No, I think we promised to get to some of these reader emails, right?
Yeah, and just a reminder, we do have a live stream tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so you can ask more questions, but we'll get to a couple of reader emails and close out today's show.
All right. Football 3 writes in, Dave and Alex, thank you very much for all the coverage. It is something I always look forward to. I'm way more excited for this season than I have been for a while. So many interesting players and stories to watch. Do you think the Steelers were trying to feature Gunner a lot in the second half of Saturday's game to try to build some trade value? Thanks, Jay from Buffalo. Yeah, I mean, it's I just think it was just part of the rotation and all like that, of trying to, get guys to show what they can show. Look, I mean, Gunner is, even though he played, quite a bit last season, I mean, he's not, he's not a guy that I think personally, I don't think a lot of teams would be looking at trading for Gunner because, you know what, this guy would be good at wide receiver. I think if there's any value, it's probably how the Steelers initially. He is a high effort guy, but even some of that high effort gets him in trouble sometimes just because of his size, especially when it comes to the blocking aspect of it. And he's just not a guy, I don't think, that you go out and say, you know what, we need a 5th wide receiver here that can play in the slot, that can also return. I just don't view him as somebody that I think a lot of teams would be interested in.
If they were interested in him, it'd be for the return aspect, where they lose a returner and they need somebody. I mean, he is a former All-Pro returner, believe it or not. That was like 2 or 3 years ago in New England. So that would be the value that he would have. No, I don't think he was playing to display trade value. Receiver depth, they needed some guys. You take your starters out. Hakeem Butler didn't play in this game, so they just need some guys to finish out the game, and Gunner's always up for the job.
Let's see here from Bryce writes in, I know it's obviously early to talk about this, but if you were to put on your tinfoil hat, would you predict that Connor Hayward will evolve into a second contract guy? And if so, do you think his role will still encompass core special teamer? Thanks for all your coverage. Oh man, you got a guy only going into his second season here. I'll say this, even after his 3rd season, which would be next year, I find it hard to envision that, he's going after the 2024 season, Connor would be going into his final year in 2025. Let's extend him. I don't see that. If his second contract comes, I would envision that happening after his 4th and final rookie season, and it being one of those situations, why don't you go, here's your market value. You're free to go test free agency, come back. This offer's on the table. Now, look, we have spoke a lot about, how this guy is kind of a flex and really position versatile and all, and he's a good special teamer. But is it a kind of guy that you go out of the way to get a second contract on? Yeah, in other words, I think it's way too early to be talking about it. And he says, yeah, he knows this early and all like that. But I would just guess right now that you won't see Connor Hayward on a second contract unless it's kind of along the lines of a minimal deal after his rookie fourth year expires.
As you're both saying, it's, a million miles away, it feels like. So who the heck knows? My sense is that yes, because there's so much versatility, and he's not going to cost that much because what position is he trying to argue that he is? He's not going to say I'm a top 10 tight end in the league because he's, half a tight end, half a running back, half a whatever. So I don't think he'll cost too much. I think he'll, always play on special teams and kind of have that in his arsenal. Let me ask you this, and this is an impossible question to know, and kind of just following suit here. What Hayward is a Steeler for longer, Cam Hayward or Connor Hayward? Who's donning the black and gold longer?
Yeah, I don't want to go there. I don't want to think about that.
All right, fair point.
It's because I don't want to think about Cam hanging.
I know that's going to be a tough day, Dave. How do you replace Cam Hayward? And the team probably has to start thinking about that. But
I understand the question, but I don't want to even think about that just yet here.
Can I give you I know we're going very long here, and I apologize. I'm getting long-winded today. Can I give you a stat that I'm kicking around? I'm going to write about this probably, I don't know, at some point when the NFL calendar slows down. Cam Hayward's 34 years old, correct? He's 34.
Yeah.
The last interior defensive lineman in football, 34 years or older, to record double-digit sacks in the season. Do you know who it is? You had to guess. 34 years older, interior defensive lineman, not an edge guy, who had 10 or more sacks in the season. Hayward's had 10 and 10.5 each of his last 2 years.
Oh, man. Was it Reggie White?
No, I'd probably still consider him more of a edge guy, but interior defensive tackle, I guess is how I should phrase it. It was Warren Sapp in 2006.
Wow.
So if Cam Hayward can hit double-digit sacks again, he'll be the first interior defensive lineman to do so since Sapp in 2006. And I believe, and I got to double check the stats here, the only two who have done it since the turn of the century are John Randall and Warren Sapp. So can Cam Hayward become that third guy?
Well, look, I tell you what, I wouldn't put it past him this year if everybody stays healthy. Because who somebody's got to eat. You can't block them all. What I'm saying is, I mean, if Watt gets the kind of attention that you think he's going to get, I mean, sure, Watt. In other words, and I've said this about Highsmith too. There's going to be some situations where there are some tasty one-on-one battles for some of these guys up front there.
Yeah, there will be, but interesting, an early kind of stat of the weird for Cam Hayward, because I think he can hit double-digit sacks again. I mean, he's done it each of the last 2 years, but the history says 34 seems to be the time when these guys start to slow down.
All right, Greg Dunlap writes in 2 first and goal. He says, "Are you rethinking bully ball at all? 2 first and goal from the one in a row and had to settle for a field goal. We didn't appear to bully anyone in either game." Look, Greg, I mean, we talked earlier in the show that offensive line unit plus McFarland that they had in the game against Buffalo down low. I mean, they want to see what those guys could do down there. I mean, if I'd be more interested to see how something like that would have went if you had your starting 5 in there and Najee Harris, in there. I don't think you can have a huge takeaway about rethinking bully ball based on that one, red zone, deep red zone trip.
What was he? Is that what he referenced, or was it just kind of more of, okay, you got Pickett airing it out and you got long touchdowns?
2 first and goals from the one in a row, had to settle for a field goal.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to judge that based off of backups you really can't do that. It hasn't felt like bully ball with the ones, but they've been scoring so quickly. But right. I think you still expect Pittsburgh to kind of be a ground based offense this year, right?
Yeah. Look, okay. And if anything, I mean, you have great comfort that if teams do bring the extra guy down, that maybe you have some ability now to counteract that.
Yeah, but I think Pittsburgh can be balanced. I think they're going to be, personnel flexible and formation flexible, and that's going to present options, which is always good for an offense.
Deshaun Campbell, sup guys? You may touch on this, but I have to ask: will Nick Herbig see enough opportunities on this team to have an impact? What would be considered a realistic amount of sacks for him? 4 or 5? And finally, he says, would you expect any money down Rushman package, including him, Watt, and Highsmith? Well, we already kind of hit on, will we see some instances during games where maybe they have 3 outside? Yeah, I don't think that's, mix and match too when it comes to these 4. I don't think obviously you're going to see it a lot, but I think you have the 4 in there that you could have some fun and putting 3 outside linebackers on the field in certain situations. As far as opportunities to have an impact, look, I tell you, from the start of the preseason alone, I think Herbig's done enough that there are going to be some instances where he will have opportunities, period. Realistic sack amounts, I mean, that's hard, but I think I just said earlier in the show, I don't think he will have 0 sacks as a rookie. And I'm tending to think he won't have less than 3.
Yeah, it's hard to put a number, like you said. Definitely won't be 0. Yeah, I would say 3 sounds. You said 3 sounds good to me.
I mean, barring injury, of course. Maybe he gets on the field, gets more playing time, and all like that. But I think he's proven that he deserves some playing time. Devin Murphy writes in, hey, guys, love the podcast. I agree with 99% of your opinions. I love that you hate hard takes or are being controversial for the sake of it. I do think you're wrong about Najee versus Warren take. I am a believer in fungibility, but watching tape makes me think you'll want to eat what you said on the Wednesday podcast. Sure, Warren has the edge on pass protection. He says there are so many plays that Najee makes that Warren couldn't, like the TD against the Colts, explosive play against the Saints, TD catch versus the Ravens. What sticks out to me is the amount of draws, screens, and halfback dump-offs Warren had. Can you tell me what Warren's success rate was minus draws? First of all, I think this might have came in Saturday at 8. This probably came in
poor timing on Nemo for that
before the Warren run there. Look, we laid out a couple of shows ago kind of what I think. Najee's a very hard runner. I think some of the stuff Najee does in the power running game and the stiff arms and stuff like that is a little bit different from what Warren has you. And yes, I mean, some of the things I think we've gone out of our way though to say that both Najee and Warren are good in the passing game. As far as, I mean, go back to Najee's rookie season. I mean, he can catch the football out of the backfield. So can Warren there. I think the explosiveness Warren offers you. Now, look, he went through that hole untouched. Does Najee go 60-something yards to the house on that?
No, I don't want to answer that question. No,
Why?
I don't know if he had that second gear that Warren showed there.
Okay, so what do you think about Devin saying he thinks we're look? There are a lot of, I think, hot takes out there right now that Warren should be, this, that, and the other. Neither Alex or I are saying that. The thing that we have said is that you got to find a way to get Warren on the field more.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just to answer the question, we mentioned that at least I thought that Harris was a better receiver vertically on some of those. I said the Ravens game specifically. I think downfield, you're seeing Harris make more plays there. And I should mention one other thing that I think Warren does better than, Harris does better than Warren ball security. Harris has had fantastic ball security. Warren does have the occasional fumbling issue, less so than his rookie year in camp, but still maybe a little bit worse there overall. But I'm with Dave. I'm not trying to pick Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren. I have an article. It's probably going to run tomorrow. It's already written. It's entitled Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren, and False Choices. This is not either or. This is both and, except both guys that can both help you win. And I don't see this as a rivalry or anything like that. There's a discussion to be had about, playing times and splits and all that, but I'm not trying to make this where we're picking one guy over the other. You can do both. So
they can
I'm
make
happy.
each other better,
Yeah.
On top of it by giving some of these guys some plays off overall. Look, Najee's going to play the higher percentage of snaps. Najee's going to have the higher percentage of touches and all like that. But I think our main takeaway has been Jaylen Warren's done enough to warrant more snaps, more touches.
Yeah, 100%. And Saturday was more evidence of that.
Mark Edwards writes in, I know it didn't look good again for Kendrick Green, but it doesn't look like they are really wanting to give anyone else a chance during a game. You mentioned it would be malpractice if he was the backup center. They had a winning season and made the playoffs the year he was the starting center for 15 games. How do you go from starting center on a decent team to not worthy of a backup role? Did they just give him a ton of help that year, or has he digressed that much? Thanks for all you do. Mark, why was Kendrick Green inactive all last year behind a guy like J.C. Hassenauer? There is, it's not just this. It isn't just been Dave picks on Kendrick Green starting in his rookie season and Alex jumps on. There is a reason here for this. What happened last year? You cannot ignore what happened last year with Kendrick Green.
Or what happened his rookie year.
Right.
Look at the tape, not just the overall team results. They won in spite of Green's play, not because of it. I mean, if that's the logic, then hey, let's bring back Trey Turner at right guard and let's have rookie Dan Moore in there. And they made the playoffs, that year, and they got blown out in the game there against Cleveland. So I look at the individual, not just the collective, and obviously Green's play has been far worse than what Mason Cole has provided.
And look, they are trying to give him as much burn as possible in these games, specifically at center.
They're begging this guy to win the job or win the backup job when he's just saying no, thank you.
Right. So that would be our response to that, Mark. Michael writes in, my biggest worry in the team not developing to its potential are the offensive tackles preventing Kenny's development and prosperity. That became less of a concern when they drafted Washington. I assumed or hoped it was to assist the offensive tackles on a high percentage of offensive snaps. What I haven't heard enough via those at camp is just how frequent and well he is playing as a blocker next to the offensive tackles. I keep hearing about his hand size as a receiver, but that's gravy, not what can actually solidify this offense. My question to Alex is, if he had to throw out a number, what percentage of 11 on 11 snaps Washington played had him blocking next to our tackles, and how far above replacement level would you estimate his blocking was in these situations?
Well, the second one, I have no idea how to best answer that. It's not as much as you think. I mean, tight ends in pass protection as true pass protectors and not chippers, it doesn't happen a ton, especially in this age of guys that can run downfield and provide plays there. I know Washington did it occasionally. I remember one rep where Golden beat him to the inside. It was, a pretty easy win there for Golden on Washington. So, I mean, in terms of true pass protection snaps that Washington had an 11v11 in camp, I don't know. It's not many. You can count on both hands a number of times, probably 5, if that. But he's going to be a chipper. But he was not drafted to help the tackles. I mean, that's going to be part of his game, but he was not drafted just to be a guy that would help the tackles.
Right. Agreed. Now look, is he going to be in line a lot? Hell yeah, he is. He better be.
Yeah, I mean, I assume he's asking about pass game when he says help the tackles more. I mean, obviously he can be a run blocker, and that's huge for him. And as a chipper, he's going to be effective, but he's not staying in just to be a 6 offensive lineman, despite what his Instagram handle may say.
Let's see here. Luke writes in, only Dave estimates 28 snaps for a player. So he's talking about Calvin Austin. So let's dive in deeper. Of 28 Calvin Austin snaps, how many are jet sweep fakes, slot routes, outside routes, regular runs to a running back? Austin lined up at a running back. Amuse me. Oh man.
You take this one, Dave.
Yeah. Geez, I'm not even gonna, we just loosely trying to figure out how much playing time in a game that he's getting. I mean, when he's in a game, are you going to see him on these jet sweeps and these and fake jet sweeps? Absolutely. I'm not even going to begin to guess. I mean, here's one thing he doesn't mean. He has slot routes out here. Man, I'm not even gonna. I wouldn't even know where to start trying to break down. Where he's lined up at and the kind of routes. We're going to see on that. All I know is that you've got a guy that is fully healthy here. You got a guy that I think you can move around the field and play him at the different positions, and a guy that should be able to produce those well-needed explosive plays. How about it goes about happening on a breakdown of percentage. I don't know how that's going to go. We'll obviously get an idea once we get 4, 5, 6 games into this thing. But I'm sorry, I can't even amuse you to try to guess what that would look like.
I'll give the Dave Bryan answer of yes. I mean, he's going to do it all, and it's going to vary, and how much in one game to another may depend on a couple different factors. But he's going to do a lot of stuff for this offense.
We're running along. I want to get one more in here. Todd says, very thankful for you going to camp, Alex. Your camp analysis has been what I look forward to every day. Question, do you make the drive daily? How long does it take? Question 2, the Steelers had one of the best drafts in recent years. I think everyone agrees. If none of the top 4 picks start, Jones, Porter, Benton, or Washington, what does that say? He says Steelers are just way too conservative about rookies getting on the field. The incumbents have outperformed expectations. The incumbents have outperformed expectations. He's got A, B, or C. The Steelers are just way too conservative about getting rookies on the field. B, the incumbents have outperformed expectations. C, they whiffed. He says, as fans, we all want their new picks to get on the field, but winning is most important. What percentage of snaps for at least the top 3 should we be happy to accept? Todd, my first answer is you should be happy to accept them winning ball games and whatever looks like. I don't. They are going to get Jones. Jones. Jones depends on obviously more and how that goes at the start of the season. Even so, Jones is going to end up at the left tackle position sooner rather than later, in my opinion. In 2023, I don't think it's an indictment on him by not winning the week 1 left tackle spot. Porter, I've got a feeling you're going to see him quite a bit out of the chute. Benton probably as well too, although I bet Mike Tomlin wishes he would have had him full go in this game against Buffalo, so maybe that's pushed him back just a tad here. Washington, you're going to see him on the field as well too. So is Todd worrying about too much about early season quote unquote starter snaps for some of these guys?
Yeah, I'm not too concerned. I mean, Jones may be a true backup, but the other guys are going to play. They're going to rotate. So yeah, you may not technically be a starter, may not get that box checked next to your name each week, but if you're rotating in and making an impact, and who cares if you're starting or not? And all those guys, Porter, Benton, Washington, should play, should see reps, and hopefully contribute positively to this team. And listen, this team has played their rookies aggressively. I mean, Kenny Pickett coming in probably earlier than people thought last year. George Pickens playing a ton. Freiermuth, Harris, Moore, Green, that 2021 class all played right away. So I think Pittsburgh has really, played their rookies much sooner than later. To answer the first question, yes, I make the drive to camp each day, and it's about 45 minutes.
All right, how long have we gone here, Alex?
Very long, so probably good time to wrap this thing up.
All right. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex _ Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Upper right navigational bar. Also, ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. We're doing a YouTube live stream on the Alex Kozora YouTube channel Monday tonight at 7 Eastern time. We invite everybody to join there and try to answer as many questions as we can from listeners, have some good conversations there. And we will be back with the next version of this podcast on Wednesday morning, start previewing the game against the Atlanta Falcons on Thursday night. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.